Nancy Pelosi, while Joe Biden was introducing his new team, made some pretty big news on the Capitol. Leanne Caldwell, let's play Nancy Pelosi right now.
The president has committed an unspeakable assault on our nation and our people. I join the Senate Democratic leader in calling on the Vice President to remove this president by immediately invoking the 25th Amendment. If the Vice President and Cabinet do not act, the Congress may be prepared to move forward with impeachment.
Leanne, she says this man is deadly to our democracy and to our people. She's got a lot of Democrats on her side. She's got one House Republican. What is the likelihood that this is going to move forward?
Well, we also just heard from Senator Chuck Schumer, who is giving a simultaneous news conference up in New York, who said that he and Pelosi called Vice President Mike Pence today to urge him to start the 25th Amendment invocation process. They have not yet heard back. That question was asked to Speaker Pelosi as well. When do you want this to start? There's only 13 days left until the president's term is up. And she said, I hope today. But she publicly also called out specific cabinet members, including Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, who Pelosi has worked with very closely over the past couple years. She also called out Secretary of State Pompeo as well, saying, is this what you stand behind? We know that Pompeo perhaps has some political ambitions in the future. So she also called the president dangerous, and she said this is urgent. She was extremely serious. Pelosi usually speaks with conviction, but there was a tone in her voice that was determined, that there was this sense of urgency, and that she was angry. And she was pressed on the articles of impeachment component, if she would move to that, how much time is she going to give the cabinet secretaries? And she would not give a timeline at all, but there is not a lot of time left. And so she is hoping that these cabinet secretaries do act very soon. Katie?
And I just want to mention also that Nancy Pelosi said she's demanding the resignation of the Capitol Hill police chief, saying that he has not called her since this incident happened, and also the sergeant at arms. But Phil Rucker, I want to ask you about your deeply reported piece on what the bunker mentality is going on in the White House, with the president even ad-libbing things in that video that he tweeted out, which got him in trouble, of course, with Twitter, ad-libbing his denials, repeated denials, and the lies about who won the election, and barring the chief of staff to Mike Pence from the White House grounds, which includes, of course, Mark Short's office, because that's where the vice president's offices are. All their offices are on the White House grounds. So he essentially can't do his job if he can't get on the White House grounds for apparently being behind or contributing to Mike Pence's lawyerly decision to write that long letter explaining that he couldn't do the illegal, unconstitutional thing that the president was asking him to do. A lot going on there.
Yeah, Andrea, the last 24 hours have been truly surreal at the White House. You have the president in what aides describe as a bunker mentality. One official told my colleague Josh Dawsey that he was acting like a, quote, total monster yesterday. He was inconsolable. He was raging about Vice President Pence, about his chief of staff, Mark Short. He is only listening to a small circle of advisors, including the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows. But these are advisors who for 2 months now have been indulging the president's false conspiracies about the election. He believes, the president has been telling the people he talked to yesterday and this morning that he believes that this election was stolen from him. He continues to make that point, and he had to be convinced to speak out yesterday. Remember, it was about 2 or 3 hours before he issued any kind of a statement to tell his supporters to back away from the Capitol and to go home. Advisors begged him to call into Fox News Channel. They begged him to issue tweets telling his supporters to stop, and he refused to do it. At one point, he told officials in the White House that he liked what he was seeing, and that why is everybody criticizing my protesters when there were all these protesters in the summer for Black Lives Matter, trying to equate the acts when these were obviously very different kinds of demonstrations. This was actually a riot on the Capitol. He ended up recording that video, and a script was prepared for him. But again, the president could not be contained. He did not stick to that script. He ad-libbed in that video about some of the false voter fraud claims, which is one of the reasons why Twitter suspended his account and Facebook has indefinitely banned him from his account.
In your article, Phil, one of the advisors called him a monster, said he was just someone you couldn't reason with. Phil Rucker, thank you for that deeply reported story. Also,
Thank you.
Leanne Caldwell, Mike Memoli, thank you. And joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Grace Meng of New York. She barred herself in her office during yesterday's attack.